Hey. Am I presenting, Sabrina?
Created it.
Nope.
Got some people in here. Hi, everyone. My name is Sonali. I'm one of the developers at Decisions, and this is the Lunch and Learn Q&A. So if you have any questions about Decisions, feel free to, I guess, raise your hand or drop a question in the Q&A or chat so we can answer them for you. And I'll just have a Decision Studio up as well in case I need to show anything. Looks like John's hand is raised.
Yes, I was asking Will a question yesterday about permission to the REST workflow. You know, you said the workflow become a kind of web service, and he's kind of showed me the permission, but I have problem from outside hitting my service, my workflow as a service. Like they say, authenticated fail. So what kind of permission do I need for that? I mean, I set up as a permission for the user, correct? I think I can hit the workflow from the browser, but not from another application.
Let's see. When you're doing your integrations, it depends on what permissions you've given here. So usually I go for creating a session ID. Have you done that?
Yes, I did that. And then they have a URL on that. But what I mean is like when I use like another application like Postman or another .NET application, try to use a URL as a REST service, and I hit it, I get authenticated fail.
And you're using the post call here?
Correct.
And then making sure that session ID is within that call of the body?
I didn't do that, so I have to use that session ID too.
Yep. So in the post body, when you're using the Postman application, and you set up the integration and decisions, it should give you the JSON that you need to send that request to your flow. And whatever inputs you have on that flow will be defined here, as well as the session ID and output type. That way it knows how to communicate with this particular flow.
Okay, I'll try it. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to drop something in the Q&A chat or raise your hand, ask aloud. Hello, welcome. And I think I see 2 Alexes that joined recently. So again, just if you have questions, I think there's a Q&A button at the bottom, or if you raise your hand and come off mute, that's a lot easier to ask your question. And then we have myself, I'm a developer, Sonali, And then Will and Maurice are also on the call from Decisions who can help answer your questions. Can you all still see my screen share?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, it looks like we have a question in the chat. Can I create my flows using the BPMN2 notation? I saw that there are no steps for BPMN, but I don't know how to use them. There are steps for BPMN, but I don't know how to use them and if the extent to which the standard is honored. I'm not sure what BPMN stands for.
Okay.
I think that's
Can you hear
yep,
me?
I can hear.
Okay. It's the
This is from
business
Alex.
Yeah.
Mhm.
BPMN stands for Business Process Modeling Notation.
Right.
It's a way of expressing flows using pools and lanes and activities and communications, etc. But it's a little bit, sorry, it's rather different from the way Decisions creates its flows. That said, there are steps for it in the catalog. I think they are under data, but I'm not 100% sure.
In the flow designer?
In data, I think it is in data. Yeah, there, exactly. You saw BPMN.
BPN. Mhm.
And you see there are activities and
As far as I think for BPMN, the only thing that I've looked at before, and that's just within like a training class, I haven't actually used BPMN, is sort of like a rule flow that we have. But if any of the other panelists here are more familiar with BPMN, feel free to jump in.
I'm trying to find the information about this. Yeah, there's definitely support for it. I'm trying to remember. I got trained on this too. How you create a flow from it. You can import this, close this.
I think before there's something with a rule that is BPMN standard.
and I'll tell you more. The look and feel of a BPMN flow is rather different from the one created in Decisions. So typically when you assign work to someone else in Decisions, you use a form and you put the assignee in that form. Whereas in BPMN, you represent that putting a task in somebody else's lane, which is what many people have seen in when they use Visio to generate flow workflows. So BPMN is a standard. It's been there for more than a decade now, I believe, and sorry, probably 2 decades. And it formalizes the way to represent task assignment and intertask communications.
Right,
I've
definitely heard of it before, but like I said, I haven't used it myself. Maybe we could find some documentation on it.
Yeah.
I can check the documentation site too. I'm sure you have. Let's see what it says in here. Oops. This is talking about drawing steps.
Yeah, I think that the biggest difference, even though that diagram over there, has the look and feel of a BPMN, I think that the biggest difference is the concept of a pool, which is more akin to a flow in decisions, along with the fact that the pool is something that is in full control of the BPM, the Business Process Manager engine. Different animal in the way decisions operate. So I just wanted to know how do you guys bridge the two worlds, right? The standard world of decisions flows and that of BPMN, given that you offer the symbols.
Right. Let me go back into the flow and see if we can check it out more.
And those are the standard BPMN tasks. That would be equivalent to one of the rule engines.
Yeah, we do not have good information about this.
Yeah. Okay. Don't worry.
Yeah, Alex, we obviously need to, they are, and myself included, this Ask the Experts team needs to know this better. App Store, upload BPMN XML, download BPMN on the import export action. If I go to an import export folder, okay, if you go to your designer folder under import export, there is upload BPMN XML or upload DMN XML.
Interesting. I did not see that.
You might, what version are you on? This is newer functionality added in 7.x, I
folder
believe.
I never looked at it. It hasn't been a need for me. But I had the curiosity because I had to talk to a client the other day, and he asked.
We can get some information together. Who's our doc team member today?
That's me.
And Maurice, do we have a doc ticket for using BPMN, uploading it or DMN in version 7?
Not that I know of. I noticed we don't have a version 7 doc of the 6, but I can try to see if I can get that updated to version 7.
We have one for version 6.
Just the drawing one that just shown.
This one.
That's currently not the one you
just. That's not going to be upload BPMN.
Yeah, it looks like 7 is the only one that has the import export function here.
And probably what happens when you use certain modeling tools, I think that BPMN.io is one of those. They can produce, they synthesize your diagram into an XML document.
Exactly.
Probably that's what you can upload or.
Exactly. I think we're gonna have to get some information, send this back to you. Alex.
This that one, import export DMN. I see that though.
DMN,
where's that at?
In 6?
It's 7, version 7.
Oh yeah, so in 7 there's BPMN XML and also DMN XML.
DMN is the decision model notation. It's what the closest thing would be, what we build with the rules engines in decisions when you create rules. Those truth tables and whatnot, those are the DMN. That's a standard use for what you call a truth table.
Yeah, exactly. So we looks like we only got the DMN document created, Maurice. We did not get the BPMN document added to our doc site.
A BPN version or BPN would need to be added to the DMN, this document right here.
No, it's a completely separate document, completely separate standard, completely separate document.
Okay.
They're just both added to the product at the same time. They both involve importing and exporting a decisions object to or from a standard business model format. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah. No, that both notations are a standard. I think it was managed by the OMG, the Object Management Group. But these are all memories for me. I haven't done this type of work in a while.
don't think they should be under deployment.
No, because what you're doing here is you probably built some logicals where, and you probably want to bring it into the sessions. There are, remember, there are many tools that just build a model, but don't give you the execution capability. It's just a documentation tool. Some other tools, like Camunda, for example, they build a BPMN diagram, and that becomes an executable, not different from the flows that you create in Decisions, right? And they can execute that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
But Camunda is
Yeah,
pure
it's a-
based on BPMN standard.
Yeah. Sounds
Yeah,
like
I think
we need more
we'll have to get a doc.
documentation on this.
Yeah, and send that over to you once we can ask Maurice's team to get that put together for us.
Yeah, no problem. I don't want to hoard this call, so.
No, thank you for the question, Alex. It's good. Okay, we have another question in our Q&A by Muriel. I think if I pronounce your name incorrectly, I apologize. I have a general question about installing local versions. I would like to know if there would be any issues with installing two separate versions, 6.16 and 7 specifically on the same machine. So when it comes to installing local decisions, you will have to have either one, so either have 6 on your machine or 7 for a local install. And I believe when you're going, if you currently have 6, you'd have to uninstall that before you install 7. And it's not usually not recommended to go backwards.
So currently I don't have any local installation at all.
Mhm.
And I would like to ultimately have 6.16 in one directory and 7 in a separate directory. Is that not possible?
I don't think so.
No, you can't run the two
Well,
versions on the same server. You have to
yeah.
pick. You'd have to pick which one to run.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Mhm. If you want to use 2, I would probably recommend if you have access to another server that would be on a different version, or perhaps a virtual machine might work.
Yeah, I could do that. I was hoping it would be easier.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. Looks like I think I saw a new person come in here. So this is a Q&A. Quick introduction. I'm Sonali, one of the developers at Decisions. Feel free to ask a question in the chat or raise your hand and ask aloud. So we got one in the chat. Do the session ID expire? They do not expire as long as you have that session ID defined in your environment, then it will persist. It will be the same. So that was a quick question from John. Let me see if I can find where session IDs are stored here.
Those are going to be in portal settings. If you look at
usually.
system settings, portal settings, Sonali.
System.
And go to portal settings. You can see the session expiration configuration. Should be one of the top things. If you, this is showing differently in 7 now for some reason. If you scroll back up, we might have changed this in 7. Click auto lock screen. No, search for session here. Session timeout, yeah, on the bottom there. So you can control how long till a session expires on the session timeout time span widget here.
Oh, is that different from the session ID? Oh, well, I'm thinking of a named session. I'm sorry.
Named sessions do not expire.
Right.
But
That's what I was
a
thinking
normal
of.
user session does. But a name session does not have a concept of an expiration right now.
Hope that answers your question, John.
So when you show me that earlier, I had to out to use the session ID on my Postman.
Yes.
From
Yeah, that one's the
rest,
named session. That one won't expire.
the one that you show me, and I just copied that's the whole section there.
Right.
That one
For your flow integration, that won't expire.
Okay. Thank you.
Got a question from Alex. Is this somehow related to the user context errors that I get occasionally? The session ID expiring?
Yeah, just like every now and again, Decisions starts throwing these user context errors, and what I end up having to do is kind of close out and then start again. I'm just wondering if that's something that's related to the session ID configuration.
That's usually something, it's not directly related. That's oftentimes we'll have like, I know I will at least have many tabs open. And we
Yes.
might not always close out of all of the designers. We might just close out of the tab. And that keeps a session open, and you can get some of those log messages popping up. Yeah, that's the primary reason why you might find the user context not found errors in your logs, which you can safely ignore, they can create some noise in the logs for sure.
Okay, thanks.
And I think that might be related to what Jimmy typed here. We've been getting form session not found ID. If you leave a window unattended for a bit, is that related?
Yeah, John and I are on the same install, and we've been getting that lately. If we leave a session open for a while and we go to save it, I'll get this error message.
That's actually in the form designer specifically? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, either the form or the flow.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me before. Like if I have multiple tabs open, I think it is a global setting. As far as
there should be
timeout.
But yeah, that should be for like runtime. I don't think there's a timeout for the designer, and I'm not sure I've seen that before. Wonder if that's an issue. You guys are on 7, right, Jimmy?
Yeah. Our session timeout is at 7 days.
Yeah, no, this is like I think this might be something with the edit session not keeping its context alive appropriately. Maybe this might be a new issue introduced in 7, possibly. But this is something different. Like that's an error, not just a like the thing Alex is referring to is just a sort of nuisance type log that we can get sometimes. That'll be just in the logs, making it hard to see the logs. But if you're getting an error about a timeout or an issue, something not found by leaving a design session open, that's something, if you don't mind, well, that's something we need to take up through the support channel and figure out. That shouldn't happen. There's no timeout for an edit session in the same way there is for like a runtime form.
Yeah, I can't replicate it on demand, but I get it pretty often. If I leave a form editor or flow editor up and walk away, and I'll come back, and if I go to save it, it'll give me that error.
Yeah, I have not seen that. We need to track that down. Do you mind if the next time you get one, just taking a screenshot and shooting that into support for us so we can track that down for you? Yeah, that you shouldn't get that. And that might be some sort of, I'm not recall seeing that in 6, so my gut is saying that might be an issue in 7 that we need to sort out.
Yeah, we're still on 7 too. We're discussing today about waiting until next week when 7.5 comes out, and maybe that'll resolve it.
Possible, but I don't know. It's possible, yeah. So, but yeah, if you get that again, if you could shoot that in, that'd be really helpful, so we can track that down.
Sure.
Thank you, Jimmy. And then Alex also asked a question about the timer. Is that one used to disconnect a user after inactivity time? And I believe you're speaking of the session ID setting.
Yes, the one that
was in the portal settings.
Yeah. would that after 7 days of inactivity, does it mean that after 7 days of inactivity, which is what I thought it was then before, a user would be disconnected? Is that what it means?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
There's also screen lockout, which is actually what you want to think about for inactivity, where you can lock a screen, which really means pushing back the login screen after, you know, a period of not being active in the portal.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you for the question. All right. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to hop in. Oh, yes, Jimmy's hand's raised. Go ahead and ask your question.
So will that inactivity timeout, that doesn't work if you're on single sign-on, though, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Well, it might if single logout is if single logout is configured, it might, because I think all it does is redirect you to the log out page, which means single logout being set up would then function. That is a good question. I think it does, but I don't know. I don't know with certainty. So we can get an answer for you on that. Yeah, that's a no. I think so, and it would definitely require single logout to be configured. I don't know with certainty right now.
Okay.
So let me follow up on that one for you, Jimmy.
All right, thanks for that question, Jimmy. If anyone else has a question, again, chat is open. Raising hand is nice. You can come off mute and ask directly, or our Q&A dialogue. Thanks for dropping in, Alex. At this point, it might be easier to just raise your hand if you're able to speak to ask your question. Oh, got a question from Martin. What about time zone? I'd like my decision server to use the same time as my local computer, but can't find it. Time settings are in, I believe they're in the system settings somewhere. Let's see.
I believe it's a localization.
Was that Jared?
Yes, that was me.
Localization, is that
That is a fancy word Pravash made up, Jared. That's
It's a
not
fancy
real
word. It's not a word, a localization. I mean, that's what's named in Decisions. If I'm wrong, I mean, I could be
That's
wrong.
what we called it. That's what
I
we
don't know
called
if
it in
it's
our
in the
doc.
designer settings.
But
Is it not in decisions?
I mean, we pick up the time zone of the Windows of the server we're running on, right? Unless you're talking about time zone translation, which would be something completely separate. But
I
if
think
your
it might
if
be
your
time
Windows
zone
server's on,
translation.
but time zone translation is different. But like if you just need the server to run on EST, then the Windows server. If you need decisions to run in EST, then the decisions server, then the Windows server decisions is running on would need to be an EST. If the question is about how to use time zone translation, we could talk about that, and that's how to get that's how to translate date times into a user's local date time as opposed to using the server time.
Gotcha. So just a short answer. change the server time zone of the server to change the time zone decisions, or you can edit individual accounts and change the time zone for that account.
No, I mean, no, you changing the time zone of an account won't do anything by itself. Without time zone translation, it won't do anything.
Okay.
If you want two users to be able to see dates that are saved in UTC and translated into their time zones automatically, then what you have to do is set the server to UTC, turn time zone translation on, and set time zones on the accounts. Once all of those things are done, then a user looks at a report of like something, and we will translate the date times shown on the report automatically for them into their local time zone.
Did you want to come off mute and clarify, Martin?
I think we got it. Thank you.
You're good? Okay.
Where would I do that though? Where would I enable time zones?
See if I can find something.
Time zone translation itself.
Correct.
You have to actually go into the settings file, and there's a time zone translation property in our settings XML file, and you'd have to set that to use time zone translation to true. Once you have that, you would restart, and then we've got a good doc for setting it up. There's a couple dependencies there that doc that Jared just shared.
Got it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Martin.
Yeah, quick question about the masked text box.
Yes.
If I choose as a type, for example, an email address, it only validates it if it's a required on a required path. Is that by design?
The mask text box only validates the email.
Yeah, so I throw a mask text box on, and I throw a button on, and then I turn this guy into the value type becomes email, and then if I make this guy optional, then it doesn't validate the email properly.
It should still output here. Let me throw this into a flow. Yeah, with optional checked, it should still be passing out that data.
So I'm 6.17, and in 6.17, if I have it as optional and I enter the letter A, it says that's okay. Whereas if I put it required, it tells me that that's an invalid email address.
Oh, I see. So it's not doing the validation that it needs to when it's optional.
Correct.
And let me change it to required just so I can see what you're saying. Okay. Interesting. But so that to me, the reason that it's only showing required is because if you have that field required, it's going to want to validate the information first. But I would expect it to also do the same for optional. What you can do if this field is optional, you can create your own validation flow for it, which isn't the best. But it looks like this might need to be changed. So I would also expect it to validate if the field was optional.
Okay, so I mean, should I just open a support ticket for that?
What did the other
Are
panelists think?
Are you in version 7 here?
This is 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, is this possible that this is fixed in a further along version?
We can check. Let's check. Let's use a mask text box here and make it optional. Okay, yeah, it looks like it's the same case for 7. It won't validate it.
Okay.
So that does sound like something that needs to be changed potentially. So I don't know if support ticket's the correct route though.
Well, I mean, yeah, so historically, I would open a support ticket and they would decide whether or not it's something that had to be sent on to
Gotcha.
development.
Yeah, a workaround could be creating your own validation flow for that in the meantime. But yeah, feel free to.
Right.
I would actually, let's
submit.
see, what is it, Alex? Yeah, I would actually say go ahead and just submit a report ticket and just say, hey, this is something bug I may have identified. This way, one of the support guys can pick it up. And if they test it and they decide it is, they'll attach the DT to that support ticket so you can then track it for your own purposes. So I would say go ahead and do that route.
Okay, great.
Thanks for chiming in there, Jared.
No problem.
All right, and thank you, Alex, for your question. Next up, we have a question from Josh in the chat. Can you show how, or I guess Q&A, can you show how to add a step to favorites? I click the star and select for everyone. It still doesn't show up under favorites. All right, let's go into a flow and check this out. So these are the favorite steps. I believe the favorite step.
Can we try in
yep.
6?
In 6, yep. In 6. All right, this is. All right. Let's grab a.
So I have a subflow that I made, and I want the subflow to be in the favorites because I use it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for all users. Oh, weird. It doesn't.
It's here for me, and then I would have to.
Can we try it on subflow? Can we see like? There
should be a subflow. Oh, it's a whole.
Let me just exit out of this and just try to add this flow to the.
Yeah, that's faster. Let's try to star this flow. Oh, star it for all users. Let's save it. Yeah, flow's not in here as a favorite.
Does it matter if it's a regular step versus an element registration? Like if you favorite like a add step or something?
Yeah, when I did a standard step, that worked, but as far as like user created, it didn't work.
So it's not allowing us to favorite our element registrations, just default steps.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll need to get we'll need to get a DTN to get that added. I'd say if you want to do that now, you could use templates for that, but I'm sure it's probably not a big deal to have it, but it looks like it's not working for the things for any element registration, but it'll work for regular steps, which is kind of dumb, but we can get that fixed.
All right, I'll put a ticket in.
Well, thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. We got about 20 minutes left here on the Launch and Learn. Does anyone else have any questions come up? All right, so forgive me if you're typing, but it seems like there are no more questions at this time. That's
I'm
true.
sure if everyone's finished, we can go ahead and call it then.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all for coming. Again, my name is Sonali, I'm a developer at Decisions. It's been great, working through your questions, answering them, learning more together. Thanks for coming.